Hey everyone, I'm Greg Lambert, the editor for the LVN newsletter. And this month we are shining our LVN spotlight on Wendy Kao, who is the Director of Client Value at Gibson Dunn Crutcher LLP. Wendy, thank you very much for being here.
Thank you so much, Greg. It's nice to be here.
All right, so Wendy, you lead the client value team there at Gibson Dunn, and Gibson Dunn being one of the biggest law firms in the world. I'd like to know when you talk about value in a legal context, how has your definition evolved throughout your career, and especially balanced the firm's priority versus client priorities?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think a little context is helpful here from my role prior to joining Gibson Dunn Crutcher. I started my career at two of the big four accounting firms, and I've always had this natural curiosity about the client side. And so after 5 years in public accounting, I moved into a global bank who was my client, and I ended up spending 7 years or so doing different roles: integration, compliance, risk management, some client facing, some not. And I then finally served as chief of staff to the bank's CEO in Taiwan. So I was basically client facing and behind, and also seeing the strategic part of running a business. And after that chapter, I decided to get into something new, a new challenge, and this landed my role at Gibson Dunn in pricing, which I knew nothing about. So I thought it was something temporary. I thought I'd be here, something I'd move into quick, try something just to see how it is. And here I am 11 years later. And really, I have, been here as the first pricing hire, and I've also helped to kind of grow the client value department here from ground up. And when I started at conversations, in my role about like value, to me, and not really knowing much about the field, it was all about just the numbers, the price, and then the legal service, right? What was the price for what we were delivering? But in my years, it's really gradually shifted. I have seen that, well, clients still very much care about price. They're really asking for law firms to show value beyond the numbers, beyond the legal service. So they're looking for firms to customize the services and demonstrate how well they understand the business and the strategic goals. And instead of law firms really leading that conversation, saying, here's the value we bring, clients are really leading the conversation now. They're asking firms, how are you going to be, provide proactive insight? How are you going to provide transparency and demonstrate efficiency and be innovative and use tools like AI to reduce costs? And they also want us to be attuned to like the day-to-day operations and reading their outside counsel guidelines, for example, to know how they work. So it really feels like now demonstrating value is really at every level, not just at the attorney level, but the every touch point that we have with the client. So I find myself spending a lot of time just listening and asking questions more about what the client wants, and then shaping our approach and processes around that.
Yeah, the nice thing about coming in 11 years ago is that we were all kind of learning this at the same time. So I can imagine that as little as you knew, everyone else knew just as little, or maybe even less at that time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, let's talk about your involvement with the Legal Value Network. So, what initially inspired you to get involved with LVN, and then what's been like the most meaningful thing about your work on, say, the LVN programming subcommittee?
Sure. Yeah. Well, you mentioned that, a lot of us were just learning, 10, 15 years ago, and just building the pricing department, the client value team from scratch. It was really a lot of unknowns. There was no blueprint. And for a firm of our size, it was really challenging and exciting. I was able to bring in my past knowledge, but it was also quite lonely. So I felt, going to conferences, I started going to P3 to begin with, and then LVN over time was really what what I could do to learn and to like connect with people who did what I do, and to learn about the business of law and to meet others who were facing similar challenges. And we talked about, and they shared what worked, what hasn't worked, and I truly believe it helped me save a lot of time from doing things and making mistakes. And not only am I less lonely, but being part of LVN is like, I don't know, joining a nerdy hiking group or something, right? And it was so easy to say yes to volunteer for LVNX after going to so many conferences. And why the programming subcommittee? I recall I ticked all the boxes through all the different volunteer options, and in truth, I don't know how I got called to do it, but they said, I thought it would be a great opportunity to collaborate with the people that I frankly wish I could work with every day, but don't, and this is the best way to do it and contribute back to this community, which has helped my career grow.
That's
Yeah.
great. That's great. So, you're right now. We kind of talked about this, with your coming in, early in the pricing era of law firms. So right now we're kind of at this, crossroads of client demands versus innovation and firm strategies. So, what shifts are you seeing in how law firms are being asked to demonstrate, value beyond just the dollar amounts, beyond just pricing? And how do you see, or how is LVN helping you kind of lead and influence those changes, even if you're not attorneys?
Yeah, well, certainly, yes. I am not an attorney by background, and it was challenging in the very beginning in my role to know how to speak the language that our attorneys do and our clients. But a lot of our counterparts actually are client legal operations team members who are non-practicing attorneys. And so there is this mutual language there. And what I've seen through the conversations is the clients are really looking for, think a law firm that thinks ahead, that's not just reacting, right? Thinking ahead in many ways. We're talking about not just thinking ahead in terms of sharing legal and regulatory changes and how that impacts their business, or sharing about technology that we're using to lower costs, or what are things that we are doing to manage the case and help them avoid risks, or what are we doing to staff our teams and collaborate with theirs. And so everyone is, at the end of the day, working less and being more effective. Or what are we doing to report against budgets and avoid surprises? So all of these, requirements from our clients, I think that's driving the innovation and the strategy of the firm to be delivering on these services, to provide the training and the advice that the clients are looking for. And so it's really a slow adjustment and shift in culture. It's one conversation at a time, one idea at a time, one tweak of a spreadsheet, and then it's gradual influence, right, throughout the whole ecosystem. Yeah.
I'm just curious on that because you'd mentioned clients demanding, especially for AI involvement. Are you finding that the kind of hype around AI has also motivated some of the demands from the client on efficiencies, even if those don't necessarily involve AI, but that's kind of opened up the conversation?
Absolutely. I think it is a conversation because AI is just that word, it'll help you save time. Any way that can save time, save the billable hours, and reduce costs is being discussed in budgets and any way that we can bring it in. So I feel like it's helped the conversation in a way that it's tangible, but yet everybody's still exploring it together. So we are exploring what it means to provide value together as well. Yeah.
Final question for you. I know you pay attention to the spreadsheets, to the details, but when you kind of step back and look at the whole picture, what keeps you motivated in this field?
Yeah, I still love the spreadsheets. I love the detail. But what I do love about the work that I do and, stepping back for a minute is really, it's like a game of Tetris where we're trying to juggle different requests from clients, attorneys, and firm management. And it keeps me motivated when everything clicks into place. And it could be those little moments where the client says yes to a fee deal that you've been negotiating for months, or when the partner signs an engagement letter that took you also months to negotiate, or just a simple thank you from management saying, you know, a great job done, or your role in helping this client. It's been really just that satisfaction that comes with solving problems for others. And I also see the motivation in my role now over the years, really about growing my team and having them also be the conduits of of problem solving for the firm. Yeah.
Well, Wendy Kao, the Director of Client Value at Gibson Dunn, thank you very much for letting us shine the LVN spotlight on you this month.
Thank you so much, Greg. It's a great opportunity to be here.